Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Banters with B. I'm so glad you're here. And if you're new here, don't forget to like, share, subscribe to my channel, and send to your mom and dad and your aunties, uncles, and all that stuff.
And your cousins too.
And your cousins too, yes. Today, you guys, I have a very special guest, someone that I actually admire a lot, and you guys. Without further ado, guys, my guest today is the wonderful Light.
Hello, hello, hello. I'm so happy to be here.
Yay, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. You guys, Light is literally like one of the best people. I actually genuinely look forward to your Instagram, like your stories, your reels. It's just so, it makes me happy. I feel like in the soft life, like even if I'm not like there, but I feel like I'm there. The experience. Yeah.
Where am I?
You you are there. Like you're like I'd be like I want to just maybe that's when I graduate, Sha. I just be telling you, like when I graduate.
Graduation is a scam, bro.
Hey.
Graduation is a scam.
And speaking of graduation, like Lai, tell us about life after post-grad. You guys, Lai is doing big things, yo. Working in you tell them.
So I graduated from DePaul University in May of 2021 with a Bachelor of Arts in Biochemistry, and I accepted a full-time offer with one of the fastest-growing consulting firms in the nation, and I work as a learning, change, and communications consultant in usually the pharma space with some pharmaceutical companies like Lilly, Roche, Takeda, amongst others. And yeah, I run my own small business, and I'm working on building a startup with my best friend. Life after graduation though.
No, cause pause. Did you guys even hear that? Like there was no stopping. Went from graduating to getting a job to having our own business to having something with a best friend. Like, can we please? Where does it end, Miss Light? Where does it freaking end?
It hasn't even started yet, honestly.
And that's on what? That's on period.
This is the warm up. This is the warm up.
You guys hear that? Like all that she said is warm up. Like the world is not ready for you, Light. And I'm actually so honored to be like to know you and to just be like, I know the Light. No. The Light LOL on Instagram, please don't play.
No, it's
but I actually wanted to like, how did you? Because I know you graduated with something medical. You said
biochemical.
Yeah,
biochemistry.
Biochemistry, and then you found yourself in like consulting. Like how did that happen?
So consulting was definitely not the plan. It wasn't my original plan.
Yeah.
As a child of Nigerian immigrants, I was, you're either pre-law, pre-med, pre-engineering, or you're pre-failure. So I was pre-med. And I was planning on going to medical school, becoming a surgeon, and that was the plan. That's been the plan since I was 3 years old. It's the only thing that I ever committed to exploring. But in the back of like all of that, besides being a STEM kid, I was always a writer. I was a writer. And I always had very creative energy. That was just kind of like in the background. It was really never fostered or fed because when you're on the pre-med path, it's very narrow. It's all you can really focus on. It's all that there is to do. So for I graduated at 21, so like whatever 21 minus 3 is, for all that time of my life, I focused on medicine. And I was supposed to take the MCAT my junior year, but I had to decide between going abroad or taking the MCAT, and I really, really wanted to go abroad because I love to travel. So I was like, I'm going to take the MCAT in Paris while I'm living in Scotland, and I took all my books, all 7 of the $2,000 MCAT prep courses, and I took them with me on my flight, and I was studying, and then the pandemic hit, and it was 2020.
Oh, COVID.
COVID. It was 2020, and studying abroad in Scotland, so I'd finessed my school into paying me 10 grand to go live in Europe for 6 months. It was the ultimate finesse of my academic career thus far. It was my proudest accomplishment, and it was everything that I've ever wanted out of life. And there were just moments in there. I remember on my way to Milan with my housemate, and we were flying over the Swiss Alps, and I looked down and I was just like, this is my
real.
life.
Like, this is
Like,
actually...
this is my life. And it was just insane because it was like, I think about where I come from. I was born in Ikara. I was born in Ikara.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was.
Oh.
And
Yeah, that's
no,
in
I
Ondo,
wasn't.
right?
I was born in Ado-Ekiti. I lived in Ikara.
Oh, wait, is the Ikara in Lagos? Is it in Ondo State?
It's Ondo State.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was born in Ekiti State, but I lived in Ondo State.
But so your parents are from Ekiti or Ondo?
No, my
or...
mom is from Malaysia. My dad is from Ifo.
Ifo?
Ifo.
Oh,
yeah.
Ifo? Oh, where's that?
Ondo State.
Oh,
don't ask
yeah,
me.
well, I know my dad's from Ondo, but...
Don't ask me
my
Nigerian
mom's from-
geography. Don't ask me Nigerian geography.
Well, if, look at me, I was asking, I don't even know where anything was.
But yeah, like when I sat there and I was thinking about how much sacrifice and how far I'd come, I was just kind of like, I'm so happy right now. And
Yeah.
it was the first time where like medicine wasn't at the forefront of my mind, and it was just like, it wasn't consuming every thought and every waking moment.
Yeah.
So, after the pandemic hit and I got sent home, and I had gotten 2 out of the 6 months that I was supposed to be in Europe, it just kind of made me realize that like life can end at any moment. A pandemic can break out at any moment, and like anything can change at any moment. And I don't know if I would have been able to say at that time that I'd given myself the fairest shot at being happy and like having a life that I was proud of and that brought me joy. So I decided around that time, so the pandemic hit, I got sent home. I was rock bottom depressed, like probably the worst depression that I've ever been in my entire life. And I kind of decided, okay, like something has to change.
Yeah.
So I made a promise to myself that I was going to follow my joy. For 2020, that was my thing. I was going to follow my joy and just follow whatever made me happy. And at that time, I was traveling, and I needed to figure out how to get to a place that would allow me to do that. So I decided to put a pause on the med school path.
Yeah.
And that was terrifying because I had to switch my entire career path with a year to graduation. So I had no idea what to expect. I had no idea what was coming next, and I was just horrified, honestly. But I also just knew that like this was the right thing for me to do.
Yeah. So like, did you, while in school, since you kind of figured that out in like junior year, so you had like 1 year, so did you like take classes or anything like prepared you for consulting at all, or you just...
It was too late.
Wow.
It was too late because it was my junior year, so
Yeah.
like I couldn't change my major. And honestly, I don't regret that because I don't regret being a biochem major. Okay. I don't regret my STEMs. Like I don't regret like my commitment to the STEM perspective. I don't regret any of that because it taught me how to think in a way that is really unique to most creatives. I think like a science person. I'm really analytical, really structured in my thinking. I think like a biochem major. And in consulting, one of the other things about consulting that really drew me to the field was the fact that the more you know, the better of a consultant you are. Because a consultant is somebody who asks questions and solves problems, right? And your wide variety of experiences from all over the world, and like from all, like any experience that you have, as long as you can bring it and apply it to any situation that you're in, it only makes you a better consultant.
Oh. So
right?
like, you don't need any type of degree or like certain specific degree?
It depends on what kind of consulting you go into. Like for me, I'm in learning consulting, so I work in the pharma space. So my biochem degree actually helps me because I do a lot of work with pharmaceutical companies. So understanding the science behind it makes me a better consultant. But a tech consultant, for example, might have a computer science background or a tech background, you know. But
do you guys have like criminal justice background, psychology?
I'm sure there is. Like you can consult for anything.
Is your job hiring? I'm just trying to secure this. See,
No.
I don't want to be sitting too long like after graduate, because I know you had posted, and one thing I feel like I really admire about you is just how open. I know like you're open but also private, so it's like you open certain stuff, and I'm just so grateful because honestly I learn a lot. Like with you on your stories, I learn a lot all the time. And I know one thing that you had done, you had posted one of your I don't know, is it essays, like the little the 250 word paragraph thing for you. I read that, and I was literally blown away. I'm not even lying to you. Like it was so different and yet so good. Like it was not like the typical, because you know we took classes where they prepare you for like college and or like prepare you for like post-grad and how to apply for jobs and stuff like that. But I had never seen anything like that for, like, I'm telling you, like it was literally, please, it was so good. I screenshotted it too because I was like, girl, I'm not even kidding, because I was like, this is, I was showing everybody, like I was like, you would never think of this. And I'm so glad that you said that You had always just been very creative, and I think consulting really, like, you just help them. You think of things that nobody really thinks of, and I feel like that's great. But besides the point, yeah. So what were you doing? Because yes, I read it and I read it several times. So it was about 70 something days that you had spent after college. So what were you doing during those days? Like, because I know you. Sorry, I know you were like you said you had written something like 7 something days you have not chosen all these jobs that people you haven't settled or anything like that. So what were you doing? How did you keep going? Because I know it's really hard. Like, one thing our African parents always expect is you graduate, you get a job, or go to grad school, but you were just chilling, you waiting for like the job.
I was not chilling. I was not chilling.
Yeah,
oh
so
my
what
god,
were
I was
you
not
doing
chilling
during this time,
Okay.
like the 70 something days that you were just fresh out of grad?
Hearing you say that about my stories and my content
it's
really affirming, because I feel like, especially lately, like I've just taken a step back from creating.
I missed you. I don't know about everybody else. I miss like content on TikTok, on Instagram, TikTok. I missed it. I totally do.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm still trying to find my way and my voice, and figuring out the balance between what to share and what not to share.
Yeah.
So hearing those words is always really, really affirming and reassuring to me, because it just reminds me that I matter. So
you do.
I really appreciate that. In terms of what I was doing after graduation, so after graduation and before graduation, I was applying, and interviewing. So the biggest tip that I always have for people when they in their last, honestly, the sooner you start it, the better, is tap into your network, tap into your institutional networks, tap into your friends' networks, tap into your network, because this job, I'm telling you, this industry, this job search field, the playing field is not even. It's really all, it's important to know what you know. Yeah. But really, truly, your network is your net worth. Your network is your net worth.
You guys heard that? Your network is your net worth.
It's all about.
So it's not really about what you have on your
the degree
GPA.
Opened the door. No, really, it's like no one's asking for my GPA since I graduated.
Really?
Yeah, and I worked really, really hard for my GPA.
One thing that everybody that I've talked to, like, after graduation, though, however, I think they say the same thing. So it's like nobody ever asks, like, oh, so what did you graduate with? It's always like, what can you do? What have you done? Like, where have you been? Like, what are your experiences that you would bring to the table? And I thought, like, because, girl, let's not even talk about the GPA. It's
really not about the GPA at all. It's about how you tell a story.
Yeah.
And that's what I've really learned in the post-grad world as well, is that storytelling is a critical skill. And going into consulting, most people don't necessarily have like a STEM degree. You know what I mean? So for me, when I was in those interviews, I had to figure out how to tell the story of my experiences and why I would fit here and why I would be a good fit here. Because I'm a strong storyteller, I was able to take that experience and manipulate it to fit what they were looking for, if that makes sense. But
after this, you're gonna teach me how to tell this.
No, I got you. Like, I think that's something that I've always been really strong in, is identifying my story. It was what helped me through college. It was what helped me get into college. Like, I know how to tell a story. And that is a skill that I believe is a critical and foundational life skill, is that being able to communicate with people. So that during my time, your question was what was I doing between graduation. Yeah. So I had applied to and gotten rejected from several different companies. I remember applying for a job with L'Oreal, which I thought was my dream job, and it was actually not in consulting. It was a chemical research role. Okay. So like, it wasn't like I was like, oh, I'm gonna go into consulting. Yeah. I was literally just applying to any job that seemed interesting, and I was just trusting God. Like, that's something that I really want to emphasize, is the fact that like God was at the center of it. Like even at the time when I wasn't as strong in my faith and I didn't really realize like what was happening behind the scenes, like God was at the center of it. Yeah. And like in my heart I knew that like he had a plan for me. And I just wasn't sure what that plan was. I didn't know where I was gonna end up, but I knew that he wanted more for me. So when I had applied to L'Oreal was a research and development role, and it was in cosmetic research and development. I was like, oh, I love makeup, I love beauty, I love science. Yeah. Like, it's like makes the best sense. I was like, okay, bet, let's put it together, let's try that. I applied, they had 10,000 applicants. Oh, wow. I made it through 4 rounds of interviews, the final 10, and they only had 3 spots open, and I didn't get it. And it crushed me. I remember I was so upset. I literally sat in my closet, I cried, and then when I was done crying, I went to the track and I ran around in circles till I threw up. Yeah, so like I was crushed, and then I applied for a job with Roche in their ADP program, and I went through the interview process, 3-4 rounds of interviews, and I didn't get the offer again. And it was just like it started to like really like just like weigh on me. But then what I had to shift my perspective because I realized I wasn't getting cut at the first stage. You know?
Yeah.
I was making it to interview 2, interview 3, interview 4. So there was clearly something in me that these people recognized, and they saw, okay, like, we want to consider her. And that was what I held on to, is the fact that, like, okay, like, I'm not, like, the door isn't being slammed in my face, you know? I'm making it through. Even though I didn't get to the finish line this time, there's something here that I need to hold on to, and I need to hold on to that faith because there's something here. And I remember I got in the biggest fight with my mom because she was like, just take this one job, just take this one job. And I'm just like, it's not quite right. Like, I don't know where God wants me, but I know it's not here. And holding on to that feeling and holding on to that truth, I don't know where I would be if I didn't. If I had let that go, and if I just like settled for what was easiest at the time, I don't know if I would be where I am now, you know? So really truly like holding on to that voice of God, like even when everyone is telling you otherwise, even when the whole universe is telling you otherwise, even when it's easier to choose the path with less resistance, you know? Because if it was about money, I could have gone with whatever job was offering me $19-$20 an hour, but I really knew that I wanted a certain something, and not compromising on that ever.
So never settling. We're never settling.
Ever settling.
Literally in every situation. And I'm so glad that you talked about your faith and how you hadn't quite gotten to like, a strong place, but you knew. So it was still like, obviously you've always been a Christian and you've always known God or anything, but how did your relationship like come to grow? Like, how did that
So my parents are both pastors.
Okay.
So I'm a pastor's kid. I was born and raised. I was born and raised in the church. My mom tells the story of how when I was born, she took me to the altar and put me there, and she said, told God that this girl will always serve you. I grew up like super active in the church. I was that kid reciting memory verses, giving exaltations and stuff like that. And then as I grew up, and church replaced God, if that makes sense. And it was less about having a relationship with God and more about being prim and proper in the church, you know? Church became a place that held a lot of pain and a lot of trauma for me. It held a lot of judgment. It held a lot of anxiety. It was a place where I couldn't be myself. I remember being like 13, 14, and it was back when like everybody started getting like acrylic nails and stuff, and I wanted to get my nails done so bad. My parents wouldn't even let me paint my nails. And somehow, some way, I'd gone to like Walmart, gotten some press-ons, and like done my own nails and painted them away. And we went to Bible study, and someone went to my mom after church and was like, "I can't believe you would let her be doing that." And my mom made me take those nails off in the church. I remember being in church one Sunday and someone coming up to me, and literally be like, "You're too young to be wearing fake lashes." And just reached their hands into my glasses and pulled my lashes.
There's no way.
I'm being so serious. Whole time they weren't even fake; they were my real lashes.
Well, see, God but a hater right there.
So it's just like there's just moments like that where it just really caused a lot of like animosity for me, but within the church. So I found myself really pulling away, especially once I got to college. Once I got to college, I was like, I grew up really, really sheltered. I wasn't really allowed to do much growing up. All I did was school and church. So once I had some freedom, I went a little crazy, but to God be the glory. To God be the Jesus. Thank you. No, because God really was looking out. But so I really struggled with the church, and church became a representation of God when God is in the church. But it took me a while to learn that a church is a place for sick people.
What do you mean by that? Like, I like that, but
church is a place for sick people. You don't come to church because you're healthy. You don't come to church because you're perfect. Church is a place where you come to get better. It's where you come to connect with God. It's where you come to be filled up, right? Wow, okay. So everybody in the church, we're all sick in our own way. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. No one in that church is perfect. So if I let the way that they're behaving towards me keep me from God. That's not effective. So once I started to realize church is a place for sick people.
Church is a place for sick
Church
people.
I
really like that.
It ties back to a scripture, but I hate misquoting the Bible. I really hate misquoting the Bible, but at some point I'll look it up and I'll send it to you. Okay. But like there was something that I had read somewhere, and it was just kind of like it's a place for sick people. And when you look at it like that, when people offend you in church, it's kind of like, I get it. Like, we're all here for the same reason, because I'm sure I offend somebody, you know? I'm sure someone is offended by the way I dress, or the way I speak, or the way I carry myself, or the way I interact, but that's because I'm still working on myself, too. I'm healing. I'm not perfect, you know? And they're not perfect. So when they judge me, and they project their anxieties on me, or, you know, they come to me and say, oh, you're so much more beautiful without that thing in your nose, and I'm like, who asked you, you know? Like, we're all healing from something, you know? So, like, once I changed my perspective about that, and, I always talk about therapy. I think therapy helped me get to a place where I was ready to receive God. Because I had to heal from my trauma. And healing from my trauma meant being able to see the people around me as human beings.
Okay. Wait, I need you to pause real quick, because I think you just did something. Because I know most times when we talk about therapy, and I'm talking to like, when we talk to like most of our like African families or parents or just adults, African adults, and we talk about therapy, and they're like, how about you just give it to God? And it's always just tell God. God knows what's in your heart and all that stuff. And it's like, it does. But, and then you mentioned like, God, or like your relationship with God actually helped you with therapy. Like how would you connect that? Because I think a lot of people struggle with God and therapy, which is, I don't think they're the same thing.
I see therapy is like medicine, right? If you're sick and you decide to just lay there and be like, God will heal me, when there's doctors and physicians that he has created to help heal you, like, and you die, then it's like, oh, like, you are waiting, like, because I don't know, miracles don't happen the way we expect them to. God doesn't do miracles the same way every single time. Like, there are basic principles and like there are basic principles to miracles and to unlocking miracles, but at the end of the day, like, God doesn't do things the way we think he's gonna do them. You know, we don't dictate how he moves, you know? So if you are praying for healing and he sends a doctor who's the best surgeon in the world to come and knock at your doorstep, and you're like, oh no, God is gonna do it. God. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's the same way I feel about therapy, is the fact that, like, for me personally, like I said, therapy helped me get to a place where I was ready to receive God. Because so much of my pain was tied to the church, I wasn't willing to be in that space. Does that make sense? Yeah. When I was in that space, my ears weren't open to listen. There were scales on my eyes. And once I learned to put that pain down, and again, I always say that ties back to being able to see the people around me as human beings, right? Because, like, for example, therapy, I started with seeing my parents as human beings, right? Because that was the only way I could forgive them. I could forgive them for the trauma that they caused in my life. I had to realize that my parents are not just parents. My parents are a man and a woman who did their best with what they had.
That's actually very strong. Like, and I think when we start actually doing that, and because obviously our parents are, you know, one of the best things that ever happened to us, but they're still humans, and nobody's perfect. Like you, I think you've just done something. And I honestly believe you've touched somebody today. Like, I'm not even kidding, because I've definitely gotten something. Like, it's, your parents are humans. They're just human beings.
They're human beings, and everybody else around you
wild. That's
is
actually
just a human being.
Wow.
But yeah, like, once I started to see like that, everybody else around you is just a human being as well. And once I was able to do that, I was able to put some of my hurt down. Because instead of, I'm not a very flexible person. So I hold people to a very high standard. So, you know, I didn't have a lot of grace from my parents because they're my parents. Like, they should have known better. But no, they're a man and woman who left their home, their country, gave up everything that they had, who suffer too, who were hurt too, who know pain too, you know? And the people around me, the friendships that hurt me, they were just kids too, you know? And like, once I started to look at it like that, it was easy to put that hurt down. And once I put that hurt down, I was able to receive, because like, instead of holding a grudge on my shoulders and just being so upset all the time, I was able to just be like, yes, that hurt. Yes, I don't have to tolerate it. Yes, I can set boundaries. And I can also understand that they made a mistake because they're a person.
That is so beautifully said. I think you just said it's so nice. And I know you had also talked on your social media, you've talked about therapy and the cost of therapy. Because I know, like, a lot of people want to get therapy, they want to see a therapist, but it's quite expensive. So how were you able to, fit that into your budget?
I had to prioritize it.
Okay.
I had to prioritize it. It took a lot of research. Going to therapy, it's expensive, yes, but there are resources. It's just not, it's one of those things that it doesn't get handed to you. At least it wasn't handed to me. Okay. Some people, maybe it's different, but it wasn't handed to me. Like, I had to really, truly work for it. But, like, there are resources in place to make it more accessible. Like, for example, finding therapists with a sliding scale. A lot of therapists, they will charge you what you can afford.
Oh, okay.
So, like, if you find a therapist that offers a sliding scale, your cost per session is based on what you can afford in your income. So, when I first started going to therapy, I wasn't working. And I told my therapist that, and she was charging me $50 a session for what normally would cost $150. Right? And so that was a great place. That was really helpful for me. Secondly is looking into like EAPs and EAPs are employer assistance programs. So many organizations and employers, they actually offer free therapy sessions. Most employers offer at least 6 free sessions if you're a full-time employee. And if you are a child of somebody and you're under them as as a dependent, you can actually also claim EAP benefits. Okay. So what I started by claiming my mom and my dad's EAP. That got me 12 sessions. And then 12 free sessions. And that's like 3 months of therapy right there. And then it was, okay, here's what I can't afford. It's $50 a month. And, yes, therapy is expensive, but every time I go to Chick-fil-A, it's $20.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There goes priorities.
It's really about priorities, and I made a decision to prioritize myself.
Yeah.
I made a decision to prioritize my healing. It wasn't because I could necessarily afford it, but I could either spend $50 on one therapy session or 3 times a Chick-fil-A. It was just kind of like it was a matter of making decisions and deciding what was important. And once I started doing my research, there are tons of like wellness funds, scholarships, and stuff like that will pay for your sessions. So honestly, I haven't paid for a therapy session in like 3 months.
Really?
And I go every 2 weeks. So, like, there's local mental wellness funds. So, like, the Irvington Counseling Collective, for example, they do a $400 mental wellness fund where you can apply for, and they'll give you a check for $400 to do anything that betters your mental well-being. It doesn't even have to be therapy.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, do you have to?
Nope.
What if it's a no?
You can take a class. I was going to go horseback riding. I'm doing archery. I did swim lessons.
I was talking about what if you wanted to get a new purse.
If you want to, literally, they don't police it. Because mental wellness looks different for everybody. Yeah, so that's one of the things I really love about the Irvington Collective. But there are tons of different organizations out there, but it really requires a commitment. Like, you have to sit there, you have to do your research, you have to make the phone calls, you got to put yourself out there, you got to be willing to bare your soul. Okay. And it's not easy, but the results are... I feel like the people around me can genuinely see the difference. Like, I've committed to therapy for a little over a year now, and I genuinely feel like I'm not anywhere close to where I want to be, but I know I'm so much better than I was before. Like, so much better. Like, I said before, I'm not a very flexible person, like, at all. Like, I'm very black and white in the way I think sometimes. And I've been doing acceptance and commitment therapy for a year, and we were reflecting on my 1-year session about what I've learned in this past year, and what I noticed is I've become more flexible. Oh, okay. I've become more flexible in my thinking. I've become more flexible in the way I relate with the world, and it's not by any chance perfect, but the progress, it's there. And it's just one of those things that if it's important enough to you, you will prioritize and you'll make it happen. Yeah. Because we do a lot more for a lot less.
Okay, and maybe by the end of this, our talk, I would get information about therapy and all that.
I have a whole highlight on my Instagram. Really? Literally, I have a whole highlight on my Instagram, where I answer a bunch of questions. I put a step-by-step list on how to go about searching for. You guys
go to Light's Instagram on their highlights and check, because everybody therapy and like you said is different. Mental, how you take care of yourself mentally is different. So you could just find what works for you. And yeah, Light has a little highlight on her Instagram where we're gonna, and Light's Instagram. Tell them your Instagram.
Light.lol. So LIGHT.LOL.
Yes, you guys follow, like, and a TikTok too. A TikTok is banging.
TikTok is not. I don't need help, but I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Your TikTok is banging.
First of all, my TikTok
needs help. The consistency. You've been consistent. I know that takes some work. That takes some work. I see you.
Thanks. That makes
serving
me happy.
The looks and everything.
And another thing that Miss Light is done is moved out by herself. Let's talk about that. Like, how has that been? I can imagine. I'm just gonna tell you how I feel like it is. It's like waking up in the morning and just going naked to go get a drink.
And you want to know what? I do that a lot.
Because
I walk out of my crib naked.
I mean, so first, I'm just gonna say from my experience, it's one thing to move out of your parents' house, like, for college, and like, you still have roommates and all this stuff, but it's one thing to like move out and just move out solely by yourself. Because I remember when I moved out of here, when I got my apartment for school, it was great. I was like, oh yeah, by myself. But then I also like, I have roommates, and of course I love my roommates, but it's like they're still there. Like sometimes it's like, I don't know. So how is it like to just leave by? Because you went to college and I know you've traveled and probably stayed by yourself or with roommates, but how is it like to just be in your own space? You're paying the rent, you're paying the bills.
That's the kicker. It's amazing, but it's also absolutely terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying, and let's see, how do I explain it? It is. I've never been like a big roommate person. Yeah. I had a really, really, really horrible freshman year roommate experience. Yeah. So after that, I've just kind of been like very like, I don't do roommates. Yeah. I did housemates my sophomore year, and then junior year when I was abroad, I also did housemates. But then I lived at home senior year. So it's really, really great in the sense that like, it's really rewarding, but I also remember I cried a lot for the first 3 months because I didn't have furniture. Because not only do you move out, you also gotta furnish that space. Yeah. And you gotta make it feel like home and curating home, and it's like a really fun and like exciting process, but it's also really, really expensive. And I was doing it very by myself. So it was a matter of learning how to juggle my finances, learning how to pay rent, like make sure I had money to like actually like buy furniture and buy a couch. It took me 3 months to buy a couch. I just got a bed frame like 3 months ago. Like, and it's almost. But then I'm gonna tell you again,
we love house making like content. I personally. Because I remember when you were like, you waited several weeks or months for like the couch, and I was like, yeah, it's worth it. Like, that couch is beautiful. And then you started with putting like the coffee I feel like everything about you is just so well thought out. Like, personally, I feel like I would have just gotten whatever they showed me.
I considered it. I really did. It was a matter of, I was sitting there, and what I realized was that just a bike, I could buy a couch, just a couch, $500, and I'll have a couch, and I'll have a table, and I'll have this. But like I said, I'm not a very flexible person, and if I don't have what I want, I'm like, it'll be cool, but it's it's kind of like, and I sat there and I was like, okay, like I did all this work to get out, and I did all this work to get the space, and like I could fill it up with temporary things, but I know that I'll just be working towards replacing it versus just taking my time, being patient, and getting the things that I really truly wanted. And that was a decision that I had to make. And I'm not a very patient person either. So it was a hard process, but it was also a learning process for me, because it's been really, really satisfying to see it come together, while also being incredibly terrifying, like, because it's all on you. Yeah. Rent gotta get paid. And it's got to get paid on time, or you're going to get hit with that late fee, and the water bill got to get paid, and the electricity got to get paid, and the Wi-Fi got to get paid, and it's like, it's all on you, and it's like, and also I turn all the lights off now. I'm so sorry, Dad. So I did not know. I really didn't know. I didn't know it was like that, because why is it $100? It's just me. And the electricity
and those are things like you don't think about. All my life I lived just like, I'm just gonna let the water run. Like, it's not a big deal.
No matter, turn that water off. Because what? No. And like, it's just the things that I'm more mindful of, but I'm also just a lot more I've come to really enjoy the solitude. I think I was really, really lonely is also because me and my family are really close. I know you and your siblings are really, really close. So like being on my own for like the first time, like really truly, it was my second time really truly being alone. But like I just really miss my family, and like I'm like it was just like I just the little things that I took for granted, like being hungry and being there and food in the kitchen. Like what? Like if I want to eat, I gotta make sure that I went to the grocery store. If I didn't go to the grocery store, there's no food, and you can't DoorDash every single meal. Like
the bills,
the bills gotta get paid. So like it's been a really satisfying process, but it's also been a really challenging one. It's taught me a lot about myself, about what I value, about what I prioritize, and what's important to me. And I'm really, really grateful for it. I don't know, when I was moving out, my aunt was like, I just don't understand why you're moving out. I thought you wait till you were going to your husband's house. And I was like, I'm not going from one man's house to another. And I personally think it's very important for every young lady to live by themselves for a little bit. Because it's also really enlightening to see who you are when there's no one around dictating where you can go, what you can do, how you can move. I think that's one of my favorite parts about studying abroad is that I always say that it taught me I got to see who I was when there was no one around. Yeah. And this has just been a continued development of who I am when there's no one around.
That's good. And another thing that I took from, like I said, you're just going to keep finding out about me that I pay attention to your content. But you started, I don't know, at first, I thought it was just a one-time thing or two-time. Like you would buy flowers or maybe get them and then you would arrange them so beautifully, and then they were always in certain different places in your house, in your apartment, and then it became like an actual thing. And I always look forward to like, oh, what flowers are we getting this time, and how are you gonna cut it, how are you gonna decorate it? Like you make it just look so aesthetically pleasing. Like how did you even start learning how to take care of flowers? Because I need lessons on how to take care of flowers, and it's like it's not just roses. And I think that was one thing that also come like you get some flowers, sometimes you get lilies, and I'm like so I was like, how did you take a class, Miss Light? Oh, you did
take a class. I did take a class.
Okay.
So my thing for flowers started again while I was studying abroad, and Scotland is a very, very rainy place. Oh, okay. And it's a very, very like, at least when I was there, it was very rainy and very gloomy. Like, there were some beautiful days, but, like, it was very rainy and gloomy. And I was, like, in this little dorm room that felt like a prison cell. And it just wasn't giving. And I was really homesick. Yeah. And I needed to find a way to bring the sunshine in. So I started getting flowers. And it became a habit in the sense that, how do I explain this? For me, and I think this is so funny, in therapy, we were talking about this the other day, like, I have symbols of well-being, right? There are, like, things or behaviors or habits or routines that I maintain that are my symbols of well-being. They let me know that I'm doing okay, you know? They're how I just keep structure to my life, and I'm a very habitual person. I'm a very routine-driven person, but I also tend to lose track of time, like, a lot. And what I love about the flowers is that they're very cyclical. Inevitably, they will die. Like, every single time, no matter how well you take care of them, no matter how long they last, inevitably they will die. And I also have a very strict set of rules around my flowers. I don't get new flowers unless my space is clean. And I usually get new flowers after I've gone grocery shopping. Yeah. And there are habits that are tied to it, you know? So for me, it's I'll deep clean my house. Then I go to the grocery store, I'll buy groceries, and I'll pick up some flowers while I'm there. I'll come home and arranging the flowers and putting them together and just getting them to look really beautiful and putting them together is an act of just self-care for me. I spend that time. I usually put on some music and I would just sit there and I'll play with them till they're perfect and they're pretty, and then I'll place them all around my house and they're little rays of sunshine even on gloomy days, right? And no matter what I'm doing, or like if I walk by and like the lilies are blooming, it makes me smile because they're just so pretty and they're so nice and they're beautiful, and it's hard not to smile. They smell really nice and they're just like a little thing that just brings me so much joy.
I don't know, maybe the flowers that you get, I'm yet to find flowers that smell nice. And
lilies.
Because I always go by, sometimes just the grocery stores though, because I really don't go to like floral shops, but I would walk by the flowers, I'm like, it smells like
with the grocery store stuff, like sometimes they're like pesticides and stuff that they use to treat them. So I like to go to local florists. I also really like Trader Joe's flowers. They're really beautiful and they last really long. Yeah, the cyclical nature of it is really important to me because inevitably they will die. And once they die, like that's my signal that it's time to reset, because usually like a bouquet of flowers can last me about like 10 to 14 days. So like for me, I get fresh flowers, great. That usually means my groceries are done, my laundry's done, boom, ready. So by the time they die, it's time for me to reset again. It's time for me to go outside, go buy a new.
So kind of just it symbolizes like a sort of routine for you.
Exactly. It's that system, it's that cycle, and also the care for them. Because if you like they last longer when you care for them, right? So when it comes to like roses and stuff, making sure that you're changing the water every couple of days and cutting the stems and stuff like that. So for me, those actions and like just having to stay conscientious of that is me also staying conscientious of taking care of myself, right? You know, I'll go and I'll, you know, take the dead petals off and I'll cut the stems and like putting that effort in, like usually like around before bed or something. And also when I do that, I'll straighten up my house a little bit and like tying the care of myself a little bit into caring for something else. Like it helps me stay grounded and it helps me stay centered.
Thank you. Well, at least I've learned something about flowers today. Maybe the next time I get flowers.
No, we should go to the floral shop. Flower Boys is really fun. They have a stem wall and you can pick stems, like a dollar stem.
Yeah, I'll still need like an actual class because.
No, they do. They also do floral workshops where you can arrange it. And the New Fields is actually having like an art and bloom like master class where like these like floral arrangers are gonna come and like teach a class on like how to arrange bouquets and stuff. I want to go, but like it's $100. I'm like,
but
we'll
you know, never know what God can do.
You know,
God is gonna just give you extra money somewhere and you just do that. Okay,
Amen.
Since our time is running up, I have one last question that I want to ask, or one last discourse that I want for us. So, you had posted, everything is just based off. You had posted one time you made jollof rice and chicken, and before that you'd always post you made pasta, you made salmon and all this good stuff. So I was like, okay, like the chef. And then you're like, oh, you don't usually like cook Nigerian food. Oh, no. I know. And then you were like, next time you're gonna cook poundo and make efforiro. And I'm like, I don't know, I haven't gotten there yet, or are we still in the jollof rice fried rice?
We're still in jollof rice fried rice stage. You know, I was that kid who, and my mom
when she's cooking,
when she was cooking me, I'm doing homework. What are you talking about?
But honestly, because how else am I gonna pass classes, mommy? Because I used to tell my mom, I'm like, you're in your husband's house. Like, you're the one that's supposed to be cooking for your husband. Like, why am I cooking for another man's husband? Another woman's husband. Why am I doing that? So I know, like, I'm also very guilty. Like, growing up, I didn't really stay in the kitchen. However, it's funny because I used to always be, I did like everything, foods and nutrition. When I was in Nigeria, I did food and nutrition. And then when I got here, I don't know. I was the only one. My mom would work a lot, so technically I didn't even have a choice. I cooked for like my siblings. I made sure they ate good. But then after I left college, like when I left for college, I stopped cooking. Because I hated. I could never cook like a 15-minute meal. It had to be like 1 hour because I can't cook for myself. I had to cook for all three of them and then cook for my mom. And then if my uncle's coming over, you had to cook too. So like that took like all the fun out of cooking for me. So like how is the learning process now of like cooking Nigerian food, Nigerian delicacies, and all that good stuff? Cause
it's really fun for me because I actually see it as like a bonding opportunity with my mom now. Because my parents moved away, so usually whenever she has time, we'll like get on FaceTime and like she'll talk me through how to do it, and like that's kind of just like one of the ways that I spend time with her now. So I really value it in that sense. Also, like, making American meals, like it's always just, it's easier because it's quicker, right? But I think that learning how to cook Nigerian food makes me feel like reconnected back to my culture. It makes me feel reconnected to my parents and my family, and it just helps me. It helps me find home in my new home, because like I've created a space for myself, but like it's all me, but it doesn't quite have like the Nigerian.
Yeah,
like,
Nigerian.
like the Nigerian
Anyways,
part of me,
I'm just gonna
know?
say, whenever you've made that, and please invite me.
My aunt's also going to teach me, so I'm gonna go over there.
Yeah.
She'll just sit there and we'll just cook all of it together. So
Yeah,
I'm really looking
whenever
forward to it.
you've cooked it, just invite me. I'm always like, I might be busy for a lot of things, but food just.
No, I got you. No, I love to eat.
Yeah,
to eat.
it's been so lovely talking to you. Like I'm actually so honored that you honored my invite
I'm so
and you
glad
came here
thank you for
and
inviting
spilled
me.
all this knowledge for us. I'm so grateful. And since you've said you've just started, I want to wish you success in everything that you would do. And please bring me along, please. Whatever you're doing, just be.
You're always welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, thank you for coming. Thanks for all the words of encouragement and just like all the learning and knowledge that you've just put out there. And I just hope that you continue to just do great and do all these big things. I am rooting for you. I wish you success in everything. If you want to do light in tech, light in business, light in photography, videography, light in everything, I am team you. I'm just rooting for you, and I hope that obviously the sky is the starting point, not even the limit for you. So I wish you success. Thank you for coming. And next time I see you, maybe it will be when we're eating,
Oh, of course.
Yeah, or maybe you're taking me to Floral.
Honestly, I'm down. I'm
actually
down.
But then again, I feel like okay, my excuse right now for like my life being chaos is just like after school. I'm like after graduation. So maybe after graduation in the summer, I would be in my Floral Bolu bag.
See,
like I think I'll be my florist era.
No, I hear it. Here's
like,
the last thing I'm gonna say about that though. I think that one of the things that I've also really learned is it doesn't have to be all at once.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be all at once.
That's something that I'm learning. Just doing things just gradually, or like not having to be perfect at the first time you do it. And I think it's a firstborn child thing.
It is.
I think
Definitely.
it's definitely something that I'm unlearning, because every time I think it stopped me from just doing a lot. Like just you always want to do it, and the first time you do it, you want to get it right, because there's several different people looking back at you. They're like, oh, if you can't do it, obviously you're a failure, and they believe they can do it too, and it's not even like, let me leave.
And wherever you hit sets the standard for
yeah,
you.
exactly. So and it's like, no, they could be more.
Continue. Be more.
What happened? But yes, I feel like they're looking at us somewhere. But okay. Yes, like let's round this up. It's been a lovely conversation with you. You guys don't forget follow Light on Instagram, Snapchat. I don't know why I keep saying Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, and everything. And also, if you've stayed here this long, of course, if you've not subscribed, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Subscribe to Banters with B. Follow us on Instagram. We're going to be bringing to you fire content. And I don't know why I say fire content.
Top 10.
Yes, top tier content. I'm so glad that you've stayed this far. I love you guys. Thank you. And I'll see you on the next episode. Bye.